Hey, what's up, everybody? Clayton and Stephanie Gits coming to you with episode number 1 of Proximity Podcast. So we are so excited. This is, honey, what, a year in the making at least that we've been talking about this. And we are so excited to bring to you, we spent the past 18 years getting in a lot of rooms with a lot of men and women that are where we want to be. And we feel like we're just getting started.
Starting from zero.
The rooms are getting bigger. Yep. Well, but the rooms are getting bigger. The relationships are growing. And we've just, we want to bring those to you as best we can. We may have to beg some people to come and hop on. We'll see what the channel does, but we are so stoked just to give you proximity, because that has had such a major impact on both of our lives. So we're just going to jump right in.
So I am very, very blessed to be married to not only my best friend, but the person who I like to say he's my biggest fan and I am his. He believes more in me than maybe I believe in myself at times. And but that has been such a blessing for not only our marriage, but for my professional journey on the road to success. And so he introduced me to this idea of proximity, one, just because of who he is and how he challenges me. But I'll never forget, Clayton is in real estate. He's been in the real estate world for 18 years now? Is that right? 18 years. And he's been incredibly successful because of this idea of proximity. And so through real estate, he was exposed to this idea of proximity and the importance of getting in the room with people who are operating at a higher level, having more success than you are. That's so important for so many reasons. And so he signed up for a personal development mastermind event called, it was Brian Buffini.
It was Brian Buffini Mastermind.
Yep. And there were lots of people. It was the biggest conference I'd ever personally been to.
5,000? At
least.
Yeah. It was a big one. Yeah.
It was a big one. And so we go to this conference, and for the first time in my life, I heard these ideas that I'd never heard before, these concepts that I'd never heard before. And I was so inspired. I felt as though the top of my brain had been taken off and my head had exploded, because I had just never heard these concepts before.
Which is amazing.
You
were in your mid to late 20s.
Yes,
at that point.
Yep, my late 20s.
Never been in a room like that around people that were. And
That's right.
So quick, funny kind of aside to that, because this continues to this day. So Nito Kubain, president of High Point University, was there. He was a speaker. He blew us both away.
Yes.
And then after he spoke, of course, he was selling all of his products and out in the, where you kind of walk in there. And we bought them all.
We bought it all.
I did. You probably would have walked away, but
No, I wanted it all too. We were
so we have all of his CDs. DVDs and CDs.
Yeah.
It's like a pack.
Which we don't even have a CD player anymore.
But we haven't listened to one of them.
Yeah.
We haven't listened to one of them. So anyway.
Yeah. So that was my first exposure at a big level in-person event. And I thought, where have these ideas been all my life? Mm-hmm. And I also, here I was college educated. I had worked for corporate America. We were both in pharmaceutical sales, which, side note, that's how Clayton and I met. We were actually direct competitors. Mm-hmm. It's another interesting story.
That's another podcast.
That's a whole other podcast.
That is not a PG show.
So, here I'd been in corporate America, college educated, never heard these ideas before. And so I walked away from that. Now, at this point, I'm a homeschool mom, right? Was I? Yes, we had already. Yes, that's right. It's the first.
This was past pharma.
That was the first time we left our baby girl to go away together, which that was a challenge in and of itself. But we get to this event, and it was an amazing experience. And then I go home. And Clayton is, he continues to thrive in his real estate career. He's having great success. And I had this moment where we'll never forget, where I was sitting in the kitchen. I even remember where I was sitting. And Clayton comes home, and he's had this incredibly successul day. And I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. I had retired from pharmaceutical sales. And I loved being a mom, by the way, so I don't want to diminish the importance of being a mom and also make it sound like that is not fulfilling. And though I I remember Clayton sharing the excitement of his day, and I felt jealous, frankly, because I wanted that feeling that he felt. I wanted to have my own thing that I was like working towards, but I didn't know how to do that because I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. And so anyway,
you're developing these, our babies, and it was hard to develop yourself. Like you wanted that, that personal, professional development.
Yeah. And if you're a mom out there and you know how exhausting and tiring that job can be. And so, but I also, there's this part of me that wanted what Clayton had. And I shared that with him. And I was very emotional about it too at the time. And shortly thereafter, it's a long story, but I had some health struggles, and I ended up partnering with not a pharmaceutical company, a multi-level marketing company. And because I'd had good experience with the product, I started sharing it, and it sort of organically grew from there. And over the course of 3 years, I made it to the very top level of the company. And then once you're in that top level, there are other levels to achieve within the top level. And I got to the very top level of that. And it was amazing. And very, very, very few people do that. And developed a great income from that. Then I got to another place where I started to feel a little unfulfilled again. I found myself right back to where I started. And I was looking for more personal development, looking for more leadership, looking for just more.
Was it, yeah. So was it unfulfilled? I mean, I think you were a little bored. It was multiple things.
Yes. I was a little bored.
Comfortable is a word.
Comfortable. That's a good word.
That we've come to understand that it's not a good place for,
correct.
For us, that comfortable place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is a very tempting place for you and I to be in. So I was very comfortable yet again, kind of looking for a new challenge, looking for ways to do that within my business, but just was really struggling with finding ways. We go to another event, and this is why it's so important to get to events, is because it's not just about what you're going to learn when you go to the event itself. I would say it's even more about who you're going to meet while you're there. Because Guess what? The people that are going to those events that are there to stretch themselves, grow themselves, become more, they're on that same road to success, on becoming better versions. They're likely successful in their own personal life, which is why they're there to begin with. So the connections that you can make at these events, which can open up other opportunities. And you never know. You're only one conversation away from your life. One conversation away from your life being completely and radically changed, which is what happened at it wasn't the next, but another event. So my husband and I, we met this amazing man. We were very, very impressed with him. He also was in the same industry, but he was sharing just the success that their company was having and how they were doing things. It was so different from the way that my company was doing. It was much more cutting edge. And I was blown away and excited, wanted to try to use those concepts in my business anyways. A long story, but couldn't do it where I was. Made the hard decision to leave my company, the top position. Very comfortable because I had a great income, a big team. And made the hard decision to walk away from that comfort. And guess what? I did that because of proximity, because I have an amazing husband who was like, honey, we're going to be fine. Even if this doesn't work out the way that you want it to, or the way that we think it's going to, we're going to be fine. We'll figure it out. I think you should do it. And honestly, I don't know if I would have had the courage to do that if it weren't for my amazing husband, the proximity and him, encouraging me and pushing me to make that next step. So make the move, walked away. And by the way, I didn't get a buyout. I didn't get anything.
Started over.
I started over, from the top back down to the bottom in position and income, back down to zero. And within 4 months had matched the income I'd left behind. I think by 6 months, I was significantly making more. And a year later, or maybe it was a year and a half later, I had a month where I actually had tripled the income that a little bit more than that I'd walked away from. Yep. So point in all of that is I had the courage to do that because all of the personal development that Clayton and I have done over the years, all the proximity,
all the rooms and all the people
rooms.
and and so I think it's important to note that when you are, I've always kind of likened it to, there are all of these doors. Like you think that, first of all, when you think you've arrived, then it's like game over, right? So
100%.
It's just always important. One of our mentors says there are three types of people, right? Caged, comfortable, charged. Brendan Bouchard.
Yep.
Caged, comfortable, and charged. And so we've discovered over the past 18 years or so that being comfortable is almost as bad as being caged.
Yeah.
Because you've said this before, nothing grows in a comfortable place, right? Caged people are, they're the type of, we all know them. We've all been there at some point in our lives. They're the types of people that are like, it's victims.
Woe
Like
is
it's
me.
The world is against me. You've never walked a mile in my shoes, that sort of thing. And comfortable is just, I'm good, man. Like I'm good. Life is good. And charged, we all know those people, right? Where like you wake up and you're like, let's go because
I'm excited.
I'm excited because your vision is big. Like you're here to make an impact. You were born for something greater, right? And so when you spend time with men and women that are living at that frequency, then doors begin to open that you weren't even aware of, right? So you may think that you're kind of on this path and you're comfortable or maybe caged, and then you start getting in these rooms and you're like, oh my goodness, like I could get behind this. Like I feel inspired again. And I think that's where we were. And so it's kind of why we made that big transition. And it was hard.
It was hard.
It's one of the harder things that we've done.
100%. One of the
from a relationship standpoint.
Yes. From a relationship, it was one of the hardest things because as you can imagine, it was not a popular decision with the people that I was surrounded with in my previous company that they just were not happy about the fact that we were leaving. And so I got a lot of pushback, but the courage that I had in making that transition came from the proximity, from all the personal development. And I thought to myself, when it got really hard, when I thought to myself, this is the time to apply all this knowledge I've been learning. It's easy to apply it when things are going great. It is hard to apply that knowledge when things are not. And so that was a great opportunity to keep reminding myself of the truths. Like I don't make decisions based on the opinions of others. I make decisions based on what is best for me and my family, as long as it's moral and ethical, which changing companies is not an immoral thing. And I can do hard things. I kept reminding myself I can do hard things. And with great risk comes great reward. And those are the truths I kept saying in my head over and over and over again as I walked through, or we walked through, it was definitely a we thing, that hard journey together. And so, and ultimately at the end of the day, there has been great reward from that. I wouldn't change a thing to go back. I would do it all over again.
And I think it's important to note, and this is actually not, we didn't really plan this. So I think this is great. But I think it's important to note that, one of the things that we really learned through this process and of making this transition, right, from one company to the other, the biggest lesson I think were the impact that it had on our relationships. And those of you that are in the kind of network marketing space, you'll be able to relate to this, because if you've ever made a transition, the other thing that we've learned is that it wasn't unique to this company or to this situation. It's just kind of the way that the industry is. And so I think one of the big lessons that we learned walking away from that is, there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. We certainly could have done things differently, right?
Yep.
But it really taught us how to treat people when it happens to us, because it has happened to us. People have left us, and it will happen again. That's right. And just handling people with grace
and being in gratitude.
Yes, and just letting people know, man, like the door's open, man. Like, I love you. I'm so happy for the time that we had together. Best of luck. I think there's this kind of scarcity, versus abundance, fixed mindset, versus abundance mindset. And it's just that I think I'm so grateful for what you and I, when we went through it, I wasn't grateful for, because it stung. Yeah. But in retrospect, it was such a great experience for us, because it taught us how to treat people. Yeah. And it taught us, it is teaching us how to forgive. Yeah. right?
Yeah.
We've had to come to this place from being really offended to understanding that that's more of a devil thing than a Jesus thing. And so, being able to truly say, we offended some people and, we could have done things differently, but the offense that we felt, being able to release that, like truly release it, like down on our knees, praying for people that frankly, if they found out if it felt like if they found out that we were hit by a bus, they
wouldn't care.
would have thrown a party, right? I'm joking, sort of, but it's really being able to forgive that offense. I mean, what a gift having to be able to go through. Well,
it also gave us the perspective too, and I will say this, that I think that it isn't just in this industry. I've seen it in the real estate world too, for sure. There was a gentleman that just shared a story. Where, he had a big team and an agent left and he was very hurt. And I think for anyone listening to this that has a team of people that are working for them, here's where I think the place you have to come from is, and not to say that people may do bad things when they leave or maybe they do it the wrong way or they could have done it better, whatever. But at the end of the day, that person contributed to your income and your livelihood for however many years they were there. And so the perspective that we should have is, oh my gosh, thank you for everything that you brought our business while you were here. Yeah,
that's right.
That's amazing. I'm so sad that you're making the choice to go somewhere else.
How can I support you on your next?
Right.
And just
so that's the thing that I'm learning. Like, wow, just be in gratitude. Be grateful for what they did bring you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they contributed a lot, whether it's an agent or somebody in your whatever business you have, they contributed to help make your job easier or make you more money or whatever. And so we just had to be grateful for that. Yeah. So that is pretty much the long and short of my journey and why proximity, personal development has been so impactful in my life. And you ready to share your story?
Well, I think there's so much more to everybody's story. Cause I was just thinking as you were talking, honey, like, you came from working at a gym.
Yes.
Like you were a personal trainer.
Yes.
A really hot personal trainer. Wish I had that gym membership. But you probably wouldn't have.
That's not true.
Yeah, yes, it is. Yeah, I was like $135. You wouldn't have. But so she's a personal trainer, and then again, man, relationships, proximity, and so one of the folks that was working out in there, what was her name?
Linda. Linda.
Yeah. Amazing Linda.
Yeah. Open the door to
the next opportunity. And then working for a cardiologist. That's right. And then you saw all these pharmaceutical reps coming in and their nice suits, and you're like, well, wait a second.
And I knew how much money they were making, and they were getting these cars.
But that's the cool thing, right? It's like, you
was getting in the room again. It's proximity to people.
Well, that's right. But you could have stayed in that position. It was a comfortable position. Like you were surviving, right?
Yeah.
Getting paid whatever it was at the time. Well, that is true. You were barely surviving, but a lot of people stay right there.
Right.
Right. And you took a chance and you started handing out your resume, and then you moved up into pharmaceutical sales, right? And then you moved up into medical sales.
Yes.
And then you move, and so there's just been this progression because you took a chance. You took a chance where you could have just stayed still. And it's one of the things that I'm really just impressed by about you, because you give me way too much credit. So it is really cool to be married to a woman that, we kind of hold each other accountable, but she holds me more accountable than I hold her accountable to a higher standard. I mean, there's just no question. I know we rarely argue, but when we do, I know it's my fault. The biggest arguments we've ever had are when we play spades. Oddly enough,
we're not good spades partners.
Yeah, she. It's been a few years since she will play with me, so that's
he had to sleep in a different bedroom last time we played spades together.
Yes, that is true. Now, I ended up at Taco Bell at midnight thinking we were getting a divorce. Last time we played spades. True story. I was like, this is it. Eating my double decker. Oh,
with lettuce all over your shirt. Shredded cheese.
Oh my gosh. So my mom was born in Quebec, Canada, and she was 7 years old in 1961 when her father walked into her bedroom and told her to pack a bag and said, we're leaving. We're leaving. And she's 7, so she's like, okay, Daddy, whatever. And so he proceeded to kidnap my mom, her older brother, her younger sister. And in the span of 24 hours, he drove across the border into New York City and dropped them off at a boarding home. I didn't tell you this. I called my mom earlier today, actually, and I asked her because I didn't know, how long she was in this boarding home. And she said, all I remember was a really long time. Right. So in the span of 24 hours, no mother, no father. Right. So he kidnapped her from her mother and her other siblings. So my mom's childhood was spent, basically being dropped off at random girlfriends' home. He eventually came back and picked them up in the boarding home when he found suitable living arrangements. And but her childhood was spent, being dropped off at random girlfriends' homes up and down the East Coast, and it was rough. I mean, my mom had and her older brother, younger sister had a horrific childhood, and I share that with you because you fast forward. My mom was 18 when she got pregnant with me. She was 19 when she had me. She was living in a little trailer in Urbana, Virginia, and she was starving. She didn't have any money, and her father would drop food off to her every couple of weeks, a little box of food, and she was eating feed corn out of the field. Right, that kind of it was bad, and so she went on to raise 3 kids by herself on literally $18,000-$19,000 a year, and in retrospect, kind of growing up. Things were really hard. Like we didn't have the stuff that everybody else did. We didn't have I had like 2 or 3 outfits that I would wear to school, and we actually we rented a house in a kind of a neighborhood that was surrounded by more expensive neighborhoods. Right. So, we went to school with a lot of kids that had money. And so, I just remember, always wanting to fit in. And it just really struggling, right? Just really struggling early on. And, but I'm so grateful for all of that because I think it led to a lot of empathy, now later in life. And so I share all that because when I got into the workforce, I graduated late. I was on the what they call it, the 7-year plan. And so I graduated from a VCU here in Richmond, Virginia. And really jumped right into pharmaceutical sales. I just got into a situation where I got in a room. I got in a room. Interestingly enough, there was an ad in a paper. You know the story, right? Mm-hmm. There was an ad in a paper, and for a pharmaceutical sales position. And listen, these jobs, even back, they're harder now, but even back then they were really hard to kind of break in. And so I got in a room and. Within the span of 48 hours, I was hired with a starting salary. I think it was $42,000 a year with a $20,000 worth of bonus. And this is I'm in my early 20s and with a company car and great benefits. And I remember calling my mom and I was like, Mom, you won't believe what just happened. I'm in tears because of of where I'd come from and where my mom had come from. And I just thought I'd made it. And so again, you fast forward. And I'm surrounded, by friends. And for whatever reason, I'll never forget when I bought my first house and I was, kind of walking through this experience, buying my first house. And my friend that sold me my house was just absolutely crushing it. And he was in his late 20s. And I kind of looked at him and the situation after we bought the house. And I said, you know what? If he can do it, why can't I? Right? If she can do it, why can't you? If they can do it, why can't you? And so I walked away from that and really it was almost immediately. I was like, I'm gonna go get my real estate license. If he can do it, why can't I? And I did that in 2005. And fast forward, here we are, 18 years later. And what that really did, what that door opened up were a series of rooms where masterminds, events, I'd never been exposed. I'd never been exposed to people that were just thinking on a different level, different frequency. Brendan Bouchard, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, Nito, right? Bo Eason. We're going to talk about him in just a minute. You know, all of these people, John Maxwell, we just got back from a John Maxwell event. You know, all of these people that you start hanging out with people that are inspired, it is really hard not to be inspired. And so, and not only that, like you start coming away with these concepts, right? And so that's what we've done, and that's what we want to share, you know, through this community and through this podcast. So, you know, it's hard to we're in our house with our main man Tim back here, who this would not have ever happened without him. So Tim, thank you, brother. And but I mean, we're in our podcast studio in our house, like, right. It's incredible. Just to think about, you know, where we've been and where we're going, where we want to go.
And I want to share this because Clayton probably won't share this story, but I think it's important, and it also brings things full circle. So, you know, with the story that he told about his mother and her humble beginnings, and Clayton and I had relatively humble beginnings, not as humble as hers, but, you know, I grew up on, I would say low middle class, maybe. You know, it was, I had to buy my own things. If I wanted, we had a Walmart budget, and if I wanted anything beyond Walmart, I had to not raise money. I had to go earn money to pay for those things. And so we both appreciate coming from that place, because I think we have more gratitude and I don't know, just gratitude for that. But Clayton's mother, just, you know, today, I want to just share like how well she's doing. She has been manager of
Honda service department.
Yeah. She's been in the service department for dealerships for many years, and she earns well into six figures with she did get high school.
No formal education.
No formal education.
Well, high school.
High school education. So
past high
but
school,
amazing. Like, she's doing amazingly well. And what was really, really cool this past year? Were you surprised your mom?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. And one of our dreams was to be able to pay her house off because of everything. She's definitely a woman that would give her shirt off her back for anybody who needed anything.
It's true.
Even if that was the only thing she had, she'd still give it up to her back. Yeah. And I think a lot of that is because of the compassion she has for others, because of the hardships that she endured. But Clayton's dream, and mine as well, was we thought, how cool would it be to pay off her house? Yeah. And so we had her over on Mother's Day 2 years ago, and we were able to write a check for the remaining of her mortgage so that she could retire. Yeah. Ultimately, which she still isn't yet. but
didn't work out as planned, but no, it's a special day.
Just the blessing to be able to do that and circle back around and pay that success that we've had forward. You know, back to the person who started it all for you.
Wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
For sure, if it wasn't for her. And that was a blessing and really special. And it's just to not even have to think about writing that check was right. It wasn't a big deal, right? Because of all these rooms that we continue to get into. So I want to share a quick story, and we'll kind of wrap this up. But a few years ago, actually, it wasn't the same event that you went to.
That led to the next one. That's the other cool thing.
That's right, it did. But we're at an event, and we met this guy by the name of Bo Eason for the first time. And so, definitely go check Bo out. He's got a really amazing story. But just to illustrate the power of proximity, right? So when Bo Eason was 9 years old, he had a dream. He just came up with this vision for his life, and so he took out a crown, he got a piece of paper, and he drew out, he's 9 years old, right? So he drew out his vision for his life. And his vision was he wanted to be the best safety in the NFL, in the world, in the NFL, right? And as a 9-year-old, so he shared that with his dad. And so like his dad got on board, and every morning he said they would practice not running forward as fast as he could, but running backwards as fast as he could. He said the objective was to run backwards as fast as he could run forwards, because that's what that's what safeties and cornerbacks have to do, right? So he, practice, played in high school. When he graduated from high school, I think he said there were like 365. There's a ton of, college football programs out there. He said, not one. Not one school wanted him. Not one. He said not even the junior colleges wanted him. So instead of just throwing in the towel, he said, you know what? I'm going to go walk on at his local like junior college. And he did. And he said he kind of snuck in to the practice. Like it's
well, he had tryouts and he didn't make it.
They had tryouts and he didn't make it. And he just kept showing up. And so he just like worked his way back onto the team because he just wouldn't go away. True, amazing story.
Relentless.
Very, very determined. They had a helmet that was the only helmet they had was one that was way too big for him. He was 165 pounds as a freshman in college. Obviously went through a lot of adversity, but he just stuck with it. And eventually was drafted by the Houston Oilers, I believe, and went on to become a hugely successful, I think he was an all-pro, but went on to become a very successful strong safety in the NFL. Here's the cool part about this story. There were 4 kids that Bo Eason went to high school with that he played football with. There were 4 of these kids that he went to high school with. It was either 4, including him, so 3, or an additional 4. So if I get the details are fuzzy, forgive me. But so 4 total went on to play in the NFL. 4 kids from his high school, including him, went on to play professional football. That has not happened before or since in his high school. Think about that. That's the power of proximity. They took Bo's little crown vision, which he still carries with him today. They took his little vision of being the best player at his position in the world, and they just jumped on board. He inspired their vision, right? That's the power of proximity. 2 of his college roommates went on to play professional football. For those of you that know anything about professional sports, this just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It does not happen. I was thinking about the Mannings earlier today, right? That doesn't happen, having 2 sons, Eli and Peyton, and now it looks like they're going to have another son that might go on to play professional football. That doesn't happen. But their father played professional football. Proximity, right? There are plenty of 6'5", 6'6" studs out there that don't have the mindset to go on and play professional football, right? So the power of proximity. Then Bo went on after playing professional football to write, produce, and star in a Broadway show that was just broke all kinds of records. It was a one-man show for many, many years, and now he is a professional speaker, personal development, and so check him out. But that I think I love his story because it really just illustrates the power of hanging around with somebody that's like, if it kills me, I'm going to go become the best in the world at what I do. You can't help but be inspired by people like that, right? So we hope that's what you're here for, and that's what we're determined to bring to you. So we've got some really cool folks that some circles. We spent the past 18 years getting a lot of these rooms, and we're we've had a lot of people that have already I should say a handful, because we haven't put it out there that much yet. We have a handful of people that have inspired us that have agreed.
We have a lot of people on our list.
We have a lot of people on our list, and a lot of really big names on our list of folks that hopefully they're going to say yes, and because we want you to be inspired at the end of the day to get in the room. It's not as hard as you think. If you feel stuck, if you feel hopefully you're not in a place where I was talking to somebody earlier today who I think is just like clinically depressed, and so what I told him, I was like, bro, go get in a room with a therapist, or like no one's coming and grabbing you and picking you up off that's what I told him. I said, no one's going to come grab you and pick you up off your couch and drag you to where you need to get help. Like, you got to go do that, man. You got to take that first step. And it's the same thing with personal development, or, if you're struggling spiritually, well, then go to church. If you're struggling physically, well, then go hang out with a bunch of guys and gals that are in, so we tell this to our girls, that we have 15-year-old and 13-year-old girls, and we tell them this all the time. Girls, you show me your friends, and I'll show you who you are. Be very, very careful with who you are spending time with, because if you're hanging around with a bunch of losers, guess what? You're a loser, right? If you're hanging out with a bunch of people that have their act together, physically, the odds are you've got your act together physically. If you hang out with a bunch of people that drink too much, guess what? You're probably drinking too much. Same thing with all the other things, right? So we're just so passionate about this topic, and we just hope this opens up some doors for you. Honey, you want to say anything as we wrap up?
Yeah, I did. Just to piggyback on what you said, one of the things that we teach our girls also, as well as others, is that you want to, it's the average of the 5 that you spend the most time with, is who you are, and have that person in every area of your life, because each aspect of our life, whether it's spiritual, physical, financial, your relationship, they all will impact the other. So if you're struggling in your marriage, it's going to affect your profession. If you're struggling physically, it's going to affect how you perform, how you show up for work, how you do everything else. So it's important to have that person, that mentor, in every single area of your life. And it's probably not going to be the same person, because typically you don't find somebody that's like truly thriving in all areas. If you do, that's amazing, but there's a hard to find.
Yeah. And it's a journey,
and
right?
It's a lifelong
that's what makes life, in my opinion, so interesting and exciting, is you just have never arrived. We're always, and again, once you, like, if you think you've arrived, like it's game over, right?
Right.
So,
you're either growing or you're dying.
Yeah. You're amazing. I get to hang out with this girl every single day. So, guys, thank you for being here. We will see you on a future episode. Appreciate you.